A video. It's like perfectly complicated, but when done really well, crafted with care and intention, it can just become this like big megaphone for what your brand is all about. And like, we always have to carry really empathy for the audience. We are ultimately the best advocates as like production partners for audiences. It really is that audience that's the one that has the power at the end of the day. Objectivity is super key, and like working with someone outside your four walls for a moment in time, like assures that you're working towards your actual goal, right? Putting yourself in your audience's shoes and like which type of video speaks to you the most to help you make a decision. I always go back to like making the customer a hero. Don't be afraid to take that creative risk and try, right? That's actually the beauty of it, is that it's like it's supposed to be messy. So I think a lot of it is in the doing, is in the process. And
What's the most common mistake that businesses make when they start using video? So, Tim Bradley, co founder of Pennant Video, thanks for coming on our show. Storyteller extraordinaire and snowboarder in spirit. Welcome. At what point should a business recognize it's time to invest seriously in video marketing? Are there any telltale signs?
yeah, there's a couple. Like one is if you're having a hard time repeating a succinct, compelling message again and again, that is a great medium to support you, right? We call it the sort of like ripple effect emanating from your brand, or even within your brand, right? Internal messaging too.
Okay. Could you tell us about a company that transformed after adopting video and what changed?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are related to like early stage or even growth, right? Where they know they have a tight, set of positioning and messaging and communication style, and they're flexing in content and tons of other areas, right? When it comes to writing and blogging and social media and email and etc. And they need to take this appropriate next step into the medium of video, right? Which is like perfectly complex, right? There's like nuance when it comes to tone and aesthetic and creative direction and layers of brand and video and talking heads, if that's the approach, right? Like music, sound design. So it's like perfectly complicated, but when done really well, crafted, thoughtfully with care and intention, it can just become this like big megaphone for what your brand is all about, and why you serve or the people or industries that you do, right? So it's usually in those early stages, but also in moments of like inflection or growth, right? Where there's a moment of rebrand, there's a new product or solution you're bringing to the marketplace, there's customers that you're super proud of and want to highlight them as the heroes, right? Like there's these key moments that video can help amplify that message, support your sales team, support the like unification of your team, your employees, right? To all be marching to the same beat, right? Towards your directive or goal, annually.
You developed something called the video marketing trifecta. Could you break down those three pillars quickly for our listeners?
Sure. Yeah. The framework stem from this observation. I've been doing this for like 20 years, right? Where video as like a thing is sort of hard to, for people that don't do it often or are not like experienced in it. Because it's challenging, as we just described, right? It's hard for them to sort of identify where to begin and like where or how to best approach. And often that turns out to be a misstep where they try to make one video do all of the things, right? And you can't, emphasize to your audience all of the things at once. It's just not going to land or resonate or hit emotionally, right? The way you need them to. So the video marketing trifecta is a framework we've developed to help pull through buyers in their journey, right? In the mid funnel specifically. So like you've sold the click, they are now on your website or your landing page, right? Now what? That now you've begun this mid funnel journey. So the trifecta is meant to help you differentiate from your competition, demonstrate your solution, and validate your offering, and with three specific tools or types of videos, respectively: anthems, explainers, and endorsements.
Why the mid funnel? What magic happens there that makes video particularly impactful?
Yeah, I mean, we often see that brands have an internal resource, internal teams that are supporting the day to day, sort of like nurture and or sort of like the affinity build at the bottom of the funnel, right? So they're supporting their social teams, they're supporting in one-on-one sales situations, they're supporting internal comms and thought leadership and event coverage and things like that, right? Like all of that is baseline, and when you've already sort of drawn an audience or a buyer into your realm and they've bought into what you've got going on, right? And then top of the funnel where everyone's shouting and it's very noisy, right, is like you're just trying to draw people in to make that first touch with you to sell that click, right? So my point is like the mountain of the effort that goes into conversion happens in the middle, right? And it's sort of this messy middle where it's like a battlegrounds of sorts for attention, for engagement, for trust building, and building on that sense of belief, right? So like that's where the bulk of the legwork happens, and so that's why we feel very strongly that these types of assets, these tools, help pull that potential buyer through that journey and really empower them, your audience, to make a decision. And that's like the point, right, in all of marketing, is to like ideally pull them into you to drive sales and conversions and build on that client relationship, or turn them away because they're not the right set of buyers, and that's absolutely fine. So this framework that we've developed helps those buyers make those decisions on your behalf as a brand.
You mentioned the anthem, the explainer, and the endorsement. Which one should businesses tackle first and why?
We often encourage the explainer first or the endorsement, but I'll start with the explainer, right? Because it's a bit more straightforward and tactical, although there are layers of creative with like tone and style that we've really emphasized to make it wholly yours. But that explainer, like in the way the purpose is to demonstrate your solution or what you're bringing to the table. It really just describes what you do and how you do it in a succinct way, gets the message across, leaves the audience ideally wanting more, that like call to action, or whatever the situation is, to draw them in further into your funnel, right? So it's the most sort of like straightforward approach. And because of that, it's used constantly, right? Like it arms the sales force. You can put it on all sorts of landing pages. You can use it at trade shows. You can use it in one-on-one sales environments and situations, right? So like it's very versatile. Endorsements, a lot of the same. These are your customer stories, right? Your testimonials, right? They are your best opportunity for storytelling to describe where your solution is best used and for whom, right? So like elevating and putting your clients forward as the heroes in their own sort of story or journey allows your prospective buyer to like put themselves in that customer's shoes and associate with like, oh, this pain point solution set that you're describing through storytelling really resonates with me, and I trust what they're saying. This is validating the offering that this brand is putting forward.
What's the most common mistake that businesses make when they start using video?
Yeah, a lot of it is that trying to make it do everything for everyone everywhere, right? So like sort of the baseline, because it is like it's an investment, right? Like it's the most challenging and complicated medium to produce really well, and therefore it takes a degree of investment in production value to to resource and to do excellent. So this framework and really the suggestion always is like make one video to support one pain point or one challenge that your teams are having in communicating whatever your desired outcome is, right? um I'll coach that too, to say like, because we didn't talk about the anthem videos, these anthemic pieces that really express your brand's why, like why you exist, why you are different from your competition, why your audience should care. It's a really challenging question to distill down to like 45 to 60 seconds, right? So like that sort of like ideal runtime for this type of video. So for us, and we often caution this when a brand comes to us and they say like we want to do an anthem, I'm always a little hesitant to just be like, do you really understand the amount of like care this is going to take to produce this like flagship asset for you, right? So again, when you ask the questions where to start, like that explainer, that endorsement is a bit more like linear or straightforward, and then you can build on the depth of emotion that an anthem like really needs to do to drive home and like hit the heartstrings of that audience, right? Another way I describe it with the trifecta is like an anthem should speak to the hearts of your buyer, an explainer should speak to the minds of your buyer, and an endorsement is really that like gut check, right? Like that like, do I trust what this buyer or what this brand is offering me, right? So it speaks to sort of all parts of the human that is buying at the end of the day.
I like that. Industries like cybersecurity and sustainability aren't exactly sexy. How do you bring creativity into highly technical storytelling?
Yeah, man, I love that question. Yeah, I mean, for us, these sectors or industries or whatever you want to call them, like, are really built around a set of like values, which are safety, security, sustainability, right? Like these mantras to like really make the world a better place day over day, right? So like we really attach ourselves and align ourselves really quickly with these types of brands because they're very like mission driven in that way. But to your point, they have very like savvy and like highly educated and technical sort of buyers, right? So like how do you speak to their idiosyncrasies and like nuances is an awesome creative challenge. Also, these industries tend to be like pretty regulated or even highly regulated, so like how to dance around the sort of like legal complexities of it all honestly are like perfect guardrails to like push the creative within these boundaries, right? So for us, a lot of it starts with the writing. Like, how do you assure you're giving the right message eloquently, succinctly, like through any of the types of emotion, is whether it's like humor or compassion or ideally not fear, right? But like these types of emotions that help associate the human buyer that's on the other side of the equation, right? And then from there it's like how do you elevate things like brand through motion design, through like sonic identity, through production that live action video production that like supports and like wholly is ownable by that brand, right? Like that investment in the sort of like visual library compounds over time, right? Like beyond just this one sort of campaign in the moment, it just supports the overall ecosystem.
Do you have any favorite examples of a challenging campaign that turned out surprisingly fun?
Yeah, I like this one with a cybersecurity company that they came to us with a situation where they were doing a bit of a rebrand, I guess would be the most simple way to say it. So new positioning and messaging, taking what was like traditionally their Tel Aviv headquarters type of marketing and pushing it in the US like more deliberately, right? So this inflection point was quite the exercise of like again that sort of messing and positioning, but also their brand identity and like using motion design to really carry their story through. So this moment, which is kind of timely because it's been about a year now, uh, they wanted to make a splash at the RSA conference, which is like a big industry trade show for cybersecurity that happens annually, right? So they came to us with the goal of like we want to showcase how we're different from our competition. We want to make an impress or like sort of our best first impression, although they've been around for a while, just like this reemergence, right? And showcase, of course, their suite of tools that support the security that they're selling, right? So with this, they came to us and we proposed the sort of like two sides of the coin approach to do an explainer and to do an anthem video so that they have their whole expression of why they exist through what they do and how they do it. And while we did them in lockstep, like tonally they were consistent. The production value with the motion design and animation was consistent. So it's really this like elegant pairing that when a buyer lands on their site and like or in this case their trade show and then arrives at their site to learn more, it's like we pull them in with that expression of like why they exist in the anthem through to like okay well now I'm curious what do you do and how you do it, explain through the explainer, right? And from there demos galore, right? So that's really the goal, is to use these tools to make that one-on-one connection with a salesperson or rep or whatever the situation is inherent to their business to pull conversion through.
Well, storytelling is so powerful. And I find that anytime I think I've been uninterested in something, it's because I didn't sufficiently understand it. So I'll use sports as an example. There are like some sports that I just like wasn't a fan of, but as you start to learn more about it, like the rules and the strategy, it gets really exciting and really interesting. Drive to Survive was a example where Netflix popularized or repopularized Formula One for many people because they could understand kind of the stakes and how it works. So I could see how you would do that similarly with maybe sustainability, cybersecurity, or other kind of technical um, domains.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the thing you're speaking to is audience, right? Like we always have to carry really empathy for the audience, like despite like what our client partner has to do with like their own goals and initiatives. It's like we are ultimately the best advocates as like production partners for audiences, right? We can remain objective and remain creative to ensure that we are empowering the audience to make a decision. Like they're really the ones that um I mean, not matter the most because obviously receiving, payments on invoices is important from the client's perspective, but it really is that audience that's the one that has the power at the end of the day.
And how do you go about ensuring you're listening to the voice of the customer or the client? Do you have like customer advisory boards or something like that?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, right? Like ideally when we're launching into an engagement with a brand, we're talking to a few different aspects of their business, right? Like ideally that head of brand, right, or like that creative director, like someone to help us really understand the nuances and sort of decisions made around a brand, right? Like tone of voice and the whole visual identity, right? Like that's a really helpful jump off point. We typically also love talking to a head of sales or someone, right? So we can understand the challenges that twofold they as sales leaders have in selling whatever the product or solution is, right? But also the sort of most common um, pain points or situations that have their buyers talking to them in the first place, right? So that's always really helpful. And then typically there's some semblance of case studies, like written or otherwise, that exist that showcase how this, our clients or customers have been successful in the engagement they have together, right? So like those types of case studies are a really good jumping off point, not only for us to just be immersed like in what the brand is all about, but also for any brand that's looking to take those case studies and translate them into the medium of video. That's an excellent place to start because you already have that like rapport with that customer and now just taking it the step further and doing production, right?
Where are you seeing AI video? You know, there's splashes here and there that look kind of exciting. Do you think it's something that will be widely adopted in the near term, or do you think it's still a few years away from being useful for most people?
Yeah, it's a super timely question. And I'm obviously biased, but it's like the shiny object right now, right? Like it is super cool that we can get things, whatever those are, like glimpses of images quickly, right? There's still the compounded and consistent forever things like understanding how to develop a story, like understanding audience insights and like what they need to make decisions on their own accord, right? Like how to string together all of the parts from the music and sonic identity and sound design and visual cues and identity and animation and live action production and just sort of all the complexities that are within there. So AI does I mean, we leverage it too in ways to like produce transcripts and help us with condensing interviews and to like organization of all of our assets and things like that. But you need that creative like crafts person that's been doing this for a long time to understand like when and how it really like fits and works for you. I also think there's like this like gray area where we're sort of flirting with where like all of the all of the AI people have the same like ability, like relatively same ability to produce these things. And therefore there's this like mirroring or ripple effect of sameness that I don't think is really helpful for any brand that's looking to differentiate and stand apart, right? So you just have to be really thoughtful in how you're leveraging these tools that are like constantly evolving and in theory like can make process easier or better, but just like being thoughtful to like the grand impact and care you want to put forth that's authentic to you as the brand like leader, right?
Mhm. Yeah, for now, I am an advocate for at least bringing in an expert consultant to have like kind of feedback or final say if you don't actually work with an agency entirely, just because you have so many blind spots when you start using a new tool. I've done this myself where, like, let's say I go on a 2 week trip and I take video and I distill 2 weeks of video down to like 2 minutes. And I think, oh, this is amazing, and someone watches it and they're like, that's way too long, I need 20 seconds, and it would just never cross my mind because I'm too like embedded in the process. I don't know what it's like to be the audience, but a true professional, they've done the reps and they know exactly like, oh, this is way too long, you got to take out this part, whatever. That's one silly example, but I think yeah, you answered that really well as far as just understanding how to use the tool.
Yeah, the other thing we find is that like whatever the forest for the trees analogy is, right? It's like you, brand leader, marketing leader inside of a brand, like you've been doing this for such a long time that you sort of lose sight inadvertently, unintentionally, of course, like towards like what the real goal is, and like in the fact that you're working on behalf of your audience, right? Like your potential buyer. So yes, that objectivity is super key, and like working with someone, yeah, outside your four walls for a moment in time, like assures that you're working towards your actual goal, right? Having these outside agencies like work on your audience's behalf is really critical.
Everybody wants authenticity, but what does that actually mean in video marketing?
A lot of it is in the details, right? Of just like how unique can you make this that is the best representation of what you are embodying, right? Like by way of like the value you're providing to your potential buyer, like through that storytelling and craft and through brand identity, right? So yeah, it's in those individual decision moments of like, do we do a stock video? Do we do motion design? Do we do live action production? And it's like there's degrees of investment with each of those, right? But like the thing that I always like when we have conversations like this with prospects is like putting yourself in your audience's shoes and like which would you want to receive, right? Like which type of video speaks to you the most to help you make a decision, which type of video shows that this brand like cares, right? That they're putting forth the right amount of effort in the care in what they expect from us as a buyer, and like ultimately a relationship, right? So we always, advise in those moments to like put as much production value forward as you can, because that care, your audience can see that, they can feel that, and it, like it resonates, right? Like ideally for the better. So that's really the thing we always advise when it comes down to like decision making of authenticity.
There's so much that we communicate that unless we're like have been trained or informed, we might not be aware. I look at perhaps like the Japanese marketing, for example, or presentation at restaurants, and they think about everything, the atmosphere, like the like there's no overlooked detail, because how you do one thing is how you do everything, and that's basically communicating the quality of the ingredients that you're about to consume, because that's basically what a restaurant is. And I think many of us, it's easy to lose sight because I'm thinking about this one thing that I'm known for, and I assume that you're going to infer all that I want you to, but I don't realize how much I'm communicating perhaps disjointedly to that aim. So I could see how, it would help to have consultation or an expert kind of guide you on that communication. Could you give us one practical step a marketer can take today to make their videos feel more genuine?
I always go back to like making the customer like a hero whenever you can, right? So taking those testimonials, those sound bites, those case studies, right? And like elevating one to be a bit more cinematic, right? You'll just see so much like resonance coming out of that. You'll see so much qualitative feedback coming from that. You'll see the relationship like become so much more like enriched and deeper with that current customer, and ideally your future customers too, right? So yeah, it's like we're all appropriately sort of not like scrambling, but like always asking for that soundbite, that testimonial, and often we're engaging in a Zoom like format to get those, and that is like awesome and a very good practice, especially at the end of every sort of like part of the life cycle, right? Whatever that is. So that's an amazing habit to have, but to like then take the like the deepest part of whatever that customer situation is and pursuing it in an elevated storytelling, cinematic production quality style, that would be the thing to that I would impress, right? Because you'll that'll pay dividends in the near term and long term.
I've got a few rapid fire questions for you. What's the best video you ever produced, and what was the secret sauce?
Best changes over time. I think a lot of it is in like as you sort of get older and you realize sort of what's like important in the grand scheme of things. So while I've had some really cool experiences like launching new technical innovative products, like we did this one that was for like a hologram solution, right? So it was like really creatively challenging to like how do we showcase like holograms, right, when it comes to video production. So that one stands out. But I always think it's like what is that individual like human story that I think really is telling of like humankind ultimately. So this one really stands out was for a tech company. They do like communications and video solutions for like really disparate usually like enterprises, right? But in this case it was in this region, this native region in Arizona that it's the like biggest square mileage region of any school district like in the country, I think is what it was. And it's for these like really underserved, underprivileged uh inhabitants, right? And so it was just like especially coming out of pandemic, it was just like such an important time in like for this community, right? To like be connected, being able to be educated, right? To like pursue what they want to do, which is really like make their community better and more well off in the long term, right? So the story about the community was really heartfelt, and the students that were embodied like the passion of what they wanted to do to pursue their career and make their community better was like really powerful. So it's that's one that stands out a lot.
What's a snowboarding lesson that applies surprisingly well to business?
So don't be afraid of failure, I guess. So get you're gonna fall, but that's okay. And just get up and you learn from that mistake one way or the other, right? So that would be it.
You're big on mentorship. Why does nurturing young creative talent matter so much to you personally?
Yeah, I think there's a tremendous responsibility to like send that proverbial elevator back down, right? Like I work with an executive coach, and the way his analogy is like while I'm climbing some sort of a mountain, right? Like I have to be putting a hand back down to like pull the next group up because that's just what going to keep you sort of grounded and like humble and recognize like how far you've come on that journey, and I think as entrepreneurs that's really really important, right? Because it's like some days it's hard, and like you're always sort of looking for those wins, and all of that is like really important, and one of the best ways to do that is through nurturing and supporting someone earlier in their career, right? Because like you just see yourself in them, and it's like easy to talk and give sort of like pretty warranted advice because you've experienced it, right? And it's like doing it in a way that's grounded in care and in nurture, I think is tremendously important.
What's one final piece of wisdom you'd offer our audience about storytelling?
I mean, don't be afraid to take that creative risk and try, right? Like I think there's nothing worse than like the blank sheet of paper sort of syndrome we all have of just like, oh, this is like creative's hard because it's messy. And it's like, well, that's actually the beauty of it, is that it's like it's supposed to be messy. You're supposed to sort of like trial and like, figure out what corners to shave down or like support or build up, and like how do you work with clarity, right, when it comes to your storytelling. So I think a lot of it is in the doing, is in the process. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short, is because they just like get sort of like, I don't know, cautious or scared or timid or whatever it is, right? So I would just say like that perseverance and like pushing through the mess that is creative in that process is like really important and an area for growth for yourself, right?
I think of that exchange between Gina Davis and Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own when she said it got hard and he said it's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it.
Correct. Yeah, I love that.
Well, thanks for talking to us today. Where would you like to point people? Where can they follow you and get in touch?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, and then our business is Pennant.video. I want to point people there because we have this playbook, this like short sort of ebook about the sort of full funnel experience when it comes to video marketing. And there's some tactics in there, some like thoughts for like how to plan your video marketing experience when it comes to the buyer's journey. That's ungated, not looking for like emails or anything. So feel free to grab that from there, and we should toss it in the show notes too.